Welcome back to another episode where we are working on my 1959 Ford Galaxie. We are trying to get it back on the road, more or less restored, after sitting in a garage for more than 30 years, including through a flood. This episode is going to be all about the engine. What we have here is the original would have been numbers matching engine from that car. It is a 352 Ford FE, big block. Yeah, it's like the smallest big block, but still considered a big block. And thankfully, this was not in the garage when the car was flooded. But I know basically nothing about it, other than what I've been told, which was it was supposedly rebuilt. That's actually why it wasn't in the garage when the flood happened. But that's pretty much it. The only thing I've done is make sure it spun over, and then took a bore scope and looked down the spark plug holes, where about the only information I could get is that it was bored 30 over, which puts it somewhere around a 360 cubic inch. Other than that, it's not the high performance or anything like that. Just a plain 352 Ford FE. If you've been watching, you will have seen the absolute debacle that was originally going to be rebuilding the carburetor that turned into I still need to order one. It didn't go well. Hopefully this doesn't turn into that, because that would be a lot more expensive than just a simple carb. But Adam is here, so we are hopefully going to find some good news, that this is in good health. It supposedly ran after being rebuilt. Hopefully that means that it was broken in, because I'm pretty sure this does have hydraulic flat tappet cam and lifters, which need broken in as part of that process. If it's run, I'm hoping that was already done. If not, hopefully nothing got wiped out. But that's why we're taking it apart. Safety squints. Pretty sure these are cork gaskets, which means they RTV'd the shit out of them. Does look very clean. So that is a good sign. Nothing's worn or loose. It just means that it is new. Or new-ish. Alright. Let's try the other side.
Okay. A different angle of it.
Sure. Are they getting stuck?
This one's gonna go easier. I feel it.
Alright. Don't know why that guy is a different color. Is that one a different color?
What do you mean?
Just that one rocker's a different color.
Oh. Yes, this one is also a darker color.
Okay. Yep, it's definitely looking new. Like you can see the blue from the intake gasket. FE stands for Ford Edsel. The FE is considered a medium to big block, usually just called a big block, which is physical size for lack of a better term. You have big block, small block. This is considered a big block. But one thing that's interesting is this is the intake. This is a cylinder head. There's a seam that goes right down.
Look right here, right?
Yep. So
Okay.
the valve cover has to seal across both,
Mm.
which is odd. gonna pull a lifter to see if we can get any hints on whether or not this thing has ever been run. Moment of truth. I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna say this has not ever been run. Because that looks brand new. Well, if you're wondering how much the driver's side exhaust manifold weighs, it is 7 pounds 10 ounces. And also those that flange is much larger than I was expecting. All right, and the passenger side is 8 pounds 2 ounces. So if I can get the headers to weigh a little bit less, or at least the long tube headers to weigh the same, we might actually save even more weight, because that matters somehow. No, because I'm still adding way more weight than that. Basically straight off that way. Oh, 40 over. All right, so the cylinder walls, you can see, I don't know if I would call it cross-hatching, but whatever flex honing that they did, you can see that, and I was wrong on the number. It is bored 40 over, which puts it, I think, a little bit more than a 360. I'd have to check on that. But what you can see is not all these were running well. That one looks okay. Those don't look very good, and that one was just a straight-up dead cylinder. So definitely not running right, which is why we decided to pull the heads off. We looked at all the spark plugs, and it was running on like 3.5 cylinders total. They all looked terrible. Super rich on all of them. And then some of them were just not firing. So hopefully it is just gas, and it's not also burning oil. But we will see once we eventually get in the car and fire it up. But it doesn't look... Nothing that I'm seeing is kind of a smoking gun of this engine is dead. It all says it was very recently rebuilt and just not running right at all.
Yep.
Alright, well, we are back working on the engine. It's a different day. It's probably like 10 seconds for you guys, but Adam's back again, and we're going to continue tearing this down. We did find one little issue, which I don't really think is much of an issue, but it is something that we're going to look at, and then we're also kind of leading us to make sure that everything else is okay as far as this engine goes. So we're just going to completely tear it down. Not taking the crank out, but that's pretty much it. So took the lifters out. Obviously, heads are off. Everything else. So we're going to drain the oil. Take all this, everything off the front, the timing chain and everything like that, and then we're going to flip it over and start pulling pistons to make sure that all the rings are in the right direction. Everything is good to go, and just give this engine a good clean bill of health before we reinstall it. The other part of that is, since this hasn't been broken in or run long enough to be broken in, it has run, we want to reapply assembly grease to everything to make sure that we don't wipe out a lifter or the cam when we start this up for the first time. So we're going to use some grease on the lifters and cam, and then just redo all the assembly lube everywhere else. Well, Adam and I were able to basically strip this engine almost entirely down. We did leave the crank in it. There was really no reason for at least us to pull it out because it looked fine, it spun fine. There's really nothing that we were concerned with on it. So now it's almost an empty block. The next thing that we want to do, because it's here, it's almost entirely apart, why not, is to paint it. So we're going to clean the block up, hit it with some primer, and hit it with some high temp paint, and hopefully it comes out looking okay. Probably isn't going to be show card, that's entirely fine. We just want not this. That's really our goal, is better than what it is now. So the first step is to get everything taped up, and then set you guys back up so you can watch the kind of the transformation. Well, we're still working on the engine, but this time we're actually over in the fabrication area. What are we doing over here? Well, we're working on the valve covers. Why are we in the fabrication area? Well, because we need to modify these. I'm going to keep these, but they're going to get a few tweaks. The first one is we're getting rid of these brackets right here. These are meant to hold the spark plug wires, And I want these nice and smooth, and I'll try and route the spark plug wires in a different way. I might regret this, but hey, we'll see. The other thing is I need to mount breathers on this side. So why do I need to mount breathers? Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but we're mounting breathers in both the valve covers, so we need to drill holes in the valve covers. So we're going to start with the brackets and then move on to the breathers. Well, now that we have the brackets ground off and we have the location for the breathers marked, now it's time to do something that is even more irreversible, which is drill a giant hole in the valve covers. So yeah, that's going to be brilliant. Because literally, you kind of get one shot at that. Ooh, but it's going to look good. It's going to look good. Well, here goes nothing. and we are going to hopefully put this back together. A couple things may have changed. One, this has a nice coat of paint. So do the cylinder heads, and as you will see later, the valve covers do too. We've also got a couple extra things that are going to be good upgrades that might help a little bit with power, and some of them just look cool, but that's what we're going to go with. So now we're going to get all the pistons put in. We're not going to video that because there are far better channels to watch than a couple amateurs trying to get pistons into the engine without screwing anything up. So, since this is not an educational program, you're going to catch up once we get the pistons all in and everything torqued down. Well, we've got the piston and rods in now, and the rod bolts are torqued. So the next thing that we're going to do is put the cam in. All this stuff is essentially brand new. It was clearly rebuilt. It has runs a little bit, but I don't really know for how long, but it definitely wasn't long enough to break in the camshaft. So it's a good thing we took it apart, because we're going to have to relube everything on the camshaft to make sure that we get this to break in correctly without having to cause another rebuild. Well, unfortunately, the cam, though, is the stock replacement cam. Yeah, I know, I don't get it either. Apparently, that's what normal people do, is they just replace stuff with factory-style parts. Which means the big block's going to have a little bit less chop, at least for now. That's definitely a future upgrade that will happen anytime soon. Let's get this squared away first, and, not have this on jack stands. But we are going to do a replacement cam sometime in the future. But for right now, it's going to be the little stock mild factory one. Alright, well, we essentially are at the point now with the engine where we're going to start bolting stuff on, but not the original stuff. Kind of hinted at there were going to be upgrades. Yeah, there's going to be some cool upgrades. So the first thing that we're going to get started with is the intake once we get all the lifters in. Well, it's a little late, but thanks to Adam, you at least get to see us bolting on the intake, because someone is a terrible videographer. This guy. But yeah, here is the first upgrade, which is an Edelbrock Performer, not the RPM, just a regular Performer, aluminum intake. So, this should actually flow significantly better than the factory one, but probably a bigger performance increase is the fact that it weighs 50 pounds less than the stock one. This one is 27-ish pounds, and the other one was like 77 pounds. So we're literally cutting off 50 pounds off the nose of the car just by going to aluminum intake. So probably some performance increases, but definitely a big weight savings. So this is shiny part number 1. Well, the next bit of engine bling is a new distributor. And not just a new distributor, we're actually going with an HEI style distributor. So that way I don't have to screw with points, and it is one wire, unless I run a tack, in which case I think it's 2. So that's really going to simplify the wiring because we're, rewiring the entire car. So that gives a lot more flexibility on what we can do there. Right now, though, we just need it to install into the engine to help align the intake. So wherever I put it, it's just going to get stabbed in. It doesn't really matter because it's going to come back out. But it's shiny. Hey, that looks better.
My bad.
Well, now we've got the intake installed with brand new hardware. We got the distributor. We had to use it to locate the intake. But everything is now tightened down, torqued down. And before we can go on any further, we need to put the valve train in. So we'll catch up with you once we get that installed. All right, the next thing that I'm actually probably way more excited about than I really should be is this. It is a gold oil pan. It's shiny. Yeah, I know you're probably never going to see it unless you're underneath the car, and there's really no reason for anyone to be under the car. But you got to admit that it looks amazing, which was the entire point of doing it. Because, you know, it's that gold iridescent stuff, and it just looks cool. So, yes, I'm kind of vain like that when it comes to how engines look. So, we're going to bolt this up with an actual gasket, and then flip it over, and you get to see the valve covers, which is coming up next. Alright, oil pan is on and torqued down. Distributor came off again because we had to flip the engine over. So it's going to go back on just for looks. And then we are going to go with the valve covers. Alright, so we definitely did our own thing on the valve covers. We went with a dark red. And then because of the intake, the original intake had a road draft tube and a breather on it, and the Edelbrock one does not. So now we had to put breathers on the valve covers. So we got those, and then these were all media blasted and painted and cleaned up and straightened and everything, and they look amazing. The one downside is I did get T-handle bolts to bolt them down, and they're not here yet. For whatever reason, the company that I ordered them from through Jegs is taking forever, and Jegs doesn't know why they're taking so long. So not their fault, but it means that these are just on solely for mock-up. But since we're doing that anyways, let's put the distributor on, and then we can really kind of see what this is going to look like. All right, so we've got our billet distributor. We've got our really cool red valve covers. Now we're getting ready for the last piece, which is the carb, because if you didn't see that episode, didn't go well. That definitely did not go according to plan. And so by tearing it down and rebuilt it, we're rebuilding it to a brand new Edelbrock, which is coming up next. Well, and now you see, not the finished product. There's still a lot of stuff to bolt on. But yeah, this looks awesome. It is. This is sick. Still a lot of stuff to bolt on, the fuel pump, water pump, fan, pulleys, all that stuff. But at least for now, it's mocked up. And yeah, it looks awesome. That's pretty sick. So, a couple other things. One, I might need to go with a little bit shorter filter, depending on hood clearance. I do have a 1/2 inch mock-up carb spacer. I'd like to go with a 1 inch. Should add more power, a little bit. But it also gives a lot more clearance for the distributor, because that's a little close. But you get the idea of what it's going to look like. This gives me a hell of a lot of motivation, because this is sick, and it looks so pretty. So shiny. Well, we're not on the engine stand anymore, and we have a flywheel installed and torqued down properly. Thank you very much. And we're now on engine hoist. Why are we that way? Well, because we are working towards mating the engine and transmission and getting that thing in the car, which sounds easy, and in most cases it probably is. This isn't most cases though, so I'm running into issues that most people normally wouldn't, like finding out that the welded nutserts in the frame for the crossmember are rusted out or gone. So gonna put some rev nuts in there. That's easy enough to fix, and then just grind the holes so the trans crossmember matches up. Then there's stuff like mismatched bell housing bolts, so got new bolts for that. No idea where the bolts that go between the transmission and the bell housing are. Bolting the clutch to the flywheel. It wasn't bolted on. I have no idea where the bolts are. So there's a lot of crap like that that normally you wouldn't have to deal with, but unfortunately I am. But we have made progress. Can't see the front of the engine, but the water pump is mounted. That was a thing. Got the flywheel mounted. We've got the clutch for it that I've had for quite a while, because I was very optimistic at that point. I do already have the new pilot bushing installed, but the next step is actually to bolt up the clutch. So I'm going to go grab that, and that's what we're going to work on next. Well, what we have here is just a pretty standard clutch. It came from AutoZone, so nothing fancy. For this powerhouse, not really. But just a standard clutch. So hopefully we get good streetability, and once it's broken in, it lasts for as much as we're going to drive this. Hopefully we do drive it quite a bit, but it's not going to be a daily driver. That was a good sign. All right, and the clutch tool comes out in and easy, real nice. So there we go. There's one of the things that we need to do done. Note to self: if you have the factory service manual, it tells you to grease these little pivots. Do it after you put it on, because then you're gonna end up with grease all over your hands that you're trying desperately to not get anywhere near the clutch or flywheel. So yeah, there's that. But tool comes in out nice and easy. So that's exactly what we want. And hopefully that means that the transmission lines up nicely as well. I've already checked the pilot bushing on the input shaft of the transmission, so I know that at the very least that is good, and that the clutch fits on those splines as well. It's always, nice to know that. Alright, well, we are here with the engine and the transmission, and it might be a dumb idea, but we're going to get ready to try and put the two together. So, yeah, wish me luck. Might need it. Probably gonna need it. But, in theory, this should slide together eventually. In all reality, I have no idea what the hell's gonna happen, but we're gonna give it a go. Why? Why are you not going in? Uh-oh. Someone's found a thread. Got it. Asshole. All right, well, there you have it. That took entirely way too long, and I still need to torque all the bolts down, but we have a mated engine and transmission, which is actually, at least for me, kind of a big deal, because this is a big step. There's still a ton of stuff I need to figure out, like all the clutch linkages, how this overdrive, because it does have a push-button overdrive, or pull lever, I don't know, something like that, overdrive unit. I gotta figure out exactly how all that stuff works. But for right now, it's at least together. Now, hopefully, we're one step closer to actually getting into the car. I have to work on the crossmember for that to happen, which means I've got to put in some riv nuts, and then also at least one frame rail is like completely full of dust or dirt or something. I don't really know what. So I'm gonna try and vacuum that out first, so that the frame doesn't rot in half. And then there's a chance sometime in the next, hopefully, month, that this will actually be in the car, where it hasn't been anywhere close to for like several decades. So I'm actually really happy with the project progress that we're making, even if it is kind of slow. Not an expert. Some of the stuff I'm kind of learning as I go, but we are slow and steadily making progress, which is great. So we're gonna call it for tonight, and then tomorrow we'll see just what else we can get done, and again, just keep working towards getting this thing in the car. Well, if it looks like this engine is getting to be ready to be installed in this car, it actually is. We are finally ready to mount the engine in the frame, and then we can start hooking everything up, can start looking at getting the fenders on the front, which then lets us work on all sorts of stuff like wiring and finishing up the fuel lines and everything like that. But this is actually a really big step. So, gonna set you guys over there, and they're gonna get this installed hopefully fairly quick, and we'll see how far we get. Bigger question is, why is that not even close?
So this is flipping them the other way would do what? Shove it
Move the
backwards?
engine back. You see how the stud is offset that way?
Oh yeah, yeah. I see.
So, either the picture I looked up was wrong, or more than likely, and looking at the picture and then looking at these, I got them backwards. Alright, well, engine is in. So this is the first time this engine has actually been back in this car in roughly 30 years. We know it wasn't in the car in 1998, but we don't know how much before that was taken out. So it's home for the first time in about 3 decades. We'll call it that. Unfortunately, this episode isn't going to end with us firing it off and doing the break-in for the cam. It's going to end with this. It's actually been a really long time coming. Getting parts, researching what parts are needed, and all that other stuff. And there's still parts that aren't in, like our valve cover bolts. But we're going to end the episode here. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. If you want to follow along on the build, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any other episodes. And make sure to check out the other episodes, including episode 1, where we dive into this car and pull stuff out that's been in there for years and figure out, a little bit of its history, where we pulled it out of a garage that had been in for well over 30 years. So check that one out. It's got a lot of really cool stuff in it. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. I'll see you all later.